My name is Grace Parker, and the moment my father called me a disgrace in an apron at my sister's wedding rehearsal dinner, loud enough for half the guests to hear, I felt something inside me shatter. But what he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the waitress they'd been mocking for years was about to become their worst nightmare. Because sometimes, the people who underestimate you the most are the ones standing closest when your empire finally reveals itself. Have you ever been invisible to the people who should see you most clearly? Let me back up. I grew up in Riverside, Connecticut, in one of those picture perfect colonial houses where everything looked flawless from the outside. My father, Richard Parker, owned a successful regional law firm. My mother, Diane, ran charity galas and country club committees. And my younger sister, Vanessa, was the golden child. Beautiful, charismatic, effortlessly charming. She was studying fashion merchandising at NYU, dated a hedge fund analyst named Bradley, and could do no wrong. Then there was me. I was the practical one, the quiet one, the one who got straight A's but never quite sparkled at dinner parties. When I told my parents I wanted to study business and technology instead of law, my father actually laughed. When I chose to attend state school instead of his alma mater, he stopped mentioning me at firm events. And when I started working nights as a waitress to pay my own way through college, refusing their conditional money, my mother told her friends I was going through a phase. That was 8 years ago. I'm 30 now, and I haven't stopped working since. The restaurant where I worked through college was called Marcello's, an upscale Italian place in downtown Hartford. I started as a hostess, became a server, then worked my way to head waitress and eventually assistant manager. The owner, Tony Marcello, was a tough, brilliant businessman who saw something in me that my own family never did. He taught me everything: operations, customer service, vendor relationships, profit margins, how to read people, how to lead. Grace, he told me one night after close, you don't think like a waitress. You think like an owner. 6 months later, he made me general manager. I was 23. By 25, I'd helped him open 2 more locations. By 27, I'd developed the operational systems that turned his 3 restaurants into a model that could scale. Tony wanted to expand, but didn't have the capital or the energy. So I proposed something audacious. I'd find investors, we'd create a restaurant group, and I'd run it. He laughed. Then he saw my business plan. Then he stopped laughing. For 2 years, I worked 18-hour days. I pitched to investors, secured funding, negotiated leases, hired staff, built systems. I kept waitressing on weekends because I needed to stay connected to the floor, to the customers, to what made restaurants actually work. My hands smelled like garlic and marinara. My feet ached constantly. I had no social life, no dating life, barely any sleep. My family had no idea what I was building. They never asked. To them, I was still just Grace the waitress, Grace the disappointment, Grace who'd thrown away her potential to carry plates and take orders. My father stopped inviting me to family dinners. My mother made passive-aggressive comments about finding direction. Vanessa would post Instagram stories from her glamorous life in Manhattan, while I was elbow-deep in restaurant grease and spreadsheets. I stopped trying to explain myself. I stopped caring what they thought. By the time I turned 29, Marcello Restaurant Group had 12 locations across Connecticut and Massachusetts. We'd been featured in regional business journals. I'd been named one of Hartford's 30 under 30. Our annual revenue was pushing $15 million. Tony had retired comfortably, and I was CEO and majority owner. I still waitressed 1 shift a week at the original Marcello's. Not because I had to, but because it kept me grounded. Because the best leaders never forget where they started. Because I actually love the work, the rhythm of service, the satisfaction of a perfect dining experience, the human connection. My family still had no idea. I'd stopped talking to them about my life years ago. What was the point? Then Vanessa got engaged to Bradley. The wedding was planned for June at the Riverside Country Club. 300 guests, designer dress, destination bachelorette party in Cabo. My mother called to tell me the date and said, "You'll need to request the weekend off from your restaurant job. This is important, Grace." I bit my tongue and said I'd be there. As the wedding approached, the dynamics got worse. Vanessa would make comments about me being still in the service industry while she was building her fashion career, which consisted of working as a sales associate at Bergdorf's while Bradley paid her rent. My father would introduce me to relatives as our other daughter, with a tight smile. My mother kept asking if I'd met anyone special at the restaurant, as if my life was just an empty waiting room. The rehearsal dinner was the Thursday before the wedding. 75 guests at the country club. I drove in from Hartford after working a lunch shift, still in professional clothes, but carrying my life in the structured calm I'd built for myself. When I arrived, Vanessa was holding court in a white rehearsal dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent used to cost. Bradley's parents were there, old money country club aristocrats. My parents were glowing, playing the role of perfect hosts. I hugged Vanessa. She air-kissed me and whispered, "Try to mingle, Grace. Not everyone here is a restaurant customer." I should have left then. Dinner was served. I sat at the family table making polite conversation with Bradley's aunt when my father stood up to give a toast. He talked about Vanessa's accomplishments, her beauty, her bright future. He talked about how proud he was to welcome Bradley into the family. He talked about legacy and success and the Parker name. He didn't mention me once. Then, as he was finishing, someone from Bradley's side, his uncle, a loud banker type, called out, "Richard, what about your other daughter? What's she up to these days?" The table went quiet. My father's smile went tight. "Grace is finding her way. She works in food service, waitressing." A few people chuckled politely. My mother looked down at her plate. Bradley's uncle, clearly drunk, laughed louder. "Waitressing? At 30? Wow. Must be tough having one daughter killing it and one still serving people." The table got quieter. Vanessa looked embarrassed but said nothing. Bradley smirked into his wine glass. My father forced a laugh. "Grace has always been independent. She chose her path." I felt my face burn, but I stayed silent. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction. Then my mother, trying to smooth things over in the worst possible way, added, "She's been doing it for years now. We keep hoping she'll find something more substantial, but Grace has always been stubborn." The word hung in the air like poison. Bradley's mother, a brittle woman in pearls, said softly, "Well, every family has one, don't they?" I stood up, quietly, calmly. "Excuse me, I need some air." No one stopped me. I walked out to the country club terrace, my hands shaking. I wasn't sad anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was done. I pulled out my phone and texted my assistant, Maya. "Clear my Saturday evening schedule. I'll be attending a wedding, and I'm making an entrance." Her response came immediately. "Oh, this is going to be good. What do you need?" "Everything." The wedding day was perfect. Clear skies, warm June sunshine, the country club decorated like something from a magazine. I arrived early, alone, wearing a simple navy dress. I checked in with the venue coordinator, a woman I'd worked with professionally before. She recognized me immediately and her eyes went wide. "Ms. Parker? I didn't realize you were—" "Family," I said quietly. "Let's keep it between us for now." She nodded, understanding immediately. The ceremony was beautiful. Vanessa looked stunning. Bradley looked proud. My parents looked thrilled. I sat in the back watching, feeling nothing but calm certainty. The reception started. Cocktail hour, dinner service, toasts. I stayed quiet, observing. My family barely acknowledged me. A few relatives asked what I was doing these days, and I gave vague answers. I was waiting. Dinner was catered by an expensive company from New York, one I'd interviewed and rejected for our restaurant group because their quality didn't match their prices. The food was mediocre, the service was sloppy, several guests complained about wrong orders and long waits. My mother looked stressed. The venue coordinator kept apologizing. During dessert, my father, stood up for another toast. He talked about family, about success, about the Parker legacy being carried forward by Vanessa and Bradley. He talked about hard work and achievement. I felt my phone buzz. Maya's text, "Ready when you are." I waited for my father to finish. Then, as people were applauding, I stood up. My mother looked at me in horror, as if I was about to make a scene. "I'd like to say something," I said clearly. The room went quiet. My father looked annoyed. Vanessa looked alarmed. "I just want to congratulate my sister," I said, smiling genuinely. "Vanessa, you look beautiful. Bradley, welcome to the family. I'm so happy for you both." Vanessa relaxed slightly. People smiled. It seemed safe. Then I continued, "I also want to thank Dad for his toast about hard work and legacy. It really resonated with me because I've spent the last 8 years building something I'm really proud of. Something I wanted to share with all of you today." My father's face went confused. My mother whispered, "Grace, what are you—" The doors to the reception hall opened. Maya walked in with 3 people: Tony Marcello, our director of operations, and our head publicist. They were carrying a presentation folder and several framed magazine covers. The venue coordinator, who'd been in on the plan, quickly set up the venue's projection screen. "What's happening?" Vanessa asked, genuinely confused. "I'm sharing my work," I said calmly. "Like you wanted me to, Mom. Something substantial." The screen lit up with our company logo, Marcello Restaurant Group, then photos of our 12 locations, then our revenue charts, then the magazine covers, Hartford Business Journal, Connecticut Magazine, New England Hospitality Review, all featuring me. The room went completely silent. Tony stepped forward, smiling warmly. "Good evening, everyone. I'm Tony Marcello. I had the privilege of hiring Grace Parker 8 years ago as a hostess at my restaurant. Today, she's the CEO and majority owner of the restaurant group that bears my name. She's built a $15 million company from scratch, created over 400 jobs, and transformed the regional dining landscape. She's also one of the hardest working, most brilliant business minds I've ever encountered." He pressed a button. A video started playing. Clips from local news features, interviews, testimonials from employees, shots of our restaurants packed with happy customers. Then, testimonials from business leaders I'd worked with, investors, community members. My father's face went white. The director of operations spoke next. "Ms. Parker still works 1 shift a week as a waitress at our original location. Not because she has to, but because she believes the best leaders stay connected to every level of their organization. She built this company from the floor up, literally, and she did it without anyone's help or approval." The publicist added, "We've kept Grace's role relatively private at her request. She doesn't seek recognition. But we thought today, surrounded by family, was the perfect time to celebrate her incredible achievement." The video ended on a shot of me in our flagship restaurant, wearing an apron, laughing with staff, clearly in my element. The final frame showed my title, Grace Parker, CEO and founder, Marcello Restaurant Group. The room erupted in shocked murmurs. I walked to the front calmly. "I didn't tell you all this before because honestly, you never asked. You saw a waitress and you stopped looking. You saw someone who didn't follow your path and you decided I'd failed. But I was building an empire while you were deciding I was a disappointment." My mother's eyes were filling with tears, not of pride, but of shock and embarrassment. "Dad, you gave a beautiful toast about legacy. I've built mine. 12 restaurants, 400 employees, millions in revenue, and a business model that's being studied by hospitality programs at 3 universities. I did that while you were telling people I was finding my way." My father couldn't speak. I turned to Vanessa. "I'm genuinely happy for you, V. I really am. But you've spent years making me feel small for serving food while I was actually building something real. You've made jokes about my little restaurant job while living off Bradley's money and working retail. There's nothing wrong with any job, any path, but there's everything wrong with using yours to diminish someone else's." Vanessa's face crumpled. Bradley looked like he wanted to disappear. I looked at Bradley's uncle, the banker who'd mocked me at the rehearsal dinner. You asked what I was up to. Now you know. And for the record, our restaurant group's annual revenue is more than your division reported last quarter. I looked it up. The room was dead silent. Then slowly, people started apleaching. First, a few guests who understood what they were watching. A woman who'd been underestimated standing in her power. Then more, then most of the room. But not my family. They sat frozen, faces burning with shame. I didn't come here to embarrass anyone, I said more quietly. I came to celebrate my sister's wedding. But I'm done being invisible. I'm done being treated like a disappointment. I'm done apologizing for building something meaningful on my own terms. I looked at my parents directly. You could have been part of this journey. You could have asked questions, showed interest, offered support. But you didn't. You just decided I wasn't worth your attention unless I did things your way. My mother tried to speak, but no words came. I'll stay for the rest of the reception because I love my sister. But after today, I'm done trying to earn respect I should have been given freely. I'm done with conditional love and hierarchical worth. I'm successful, I'm proud, and I did it without you. I turned to the room. Enjoy your evening, everyone. And please, if you're ever in Hartford or any of our Massachusetts locations, stop by Marcello's. First appetizer is on me. People laughed, real warm laughter. I walked back to my seat. Tony, Maya, and our team left quietly. The DJ, sensing the mood, started music back up. Conversations resumed, but everything had shifted. My parents sat rigid at the head table. My father's face was red, his jaw clenched. My mother looked like she was fighting tears. Vanessa stared at her plate, Bradley awkwardly rubbing her shoulder. Throughout the rest of the reception, dozens of guests approached me. They asked about the restaurants. They praised my success. They apologized for not knowing. Several of Bradley's family members, including his father, asked for my business card and talked about potential partnerships. Bradley's uncle, the banker, actually came over and offered a genuine apology. I was an ass last night, he said quietly. That was remarkable what you built. I'm sorry I judged. I accepted graciously. But my family stayed away. They avoided me for the entire rest of the night. As the reception was winding down, Vanessa finally approached me. Her makeup was smudged from crying. Grace, she said, her voice small. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't understand. You didn't ask, I said simply. None of you did. I know. I was awful to you. We all were. She wiped her eyes. I thought I was better than you. God, I'm such an idiot. You're not an idiot. You just believed what they told you. I looked across the room at our parents, who were talking to guests but looked miserable. They taught us that success looks one way, that certain jobs matter and others don't, that worth is measured by their standards. You proved them wrong? I proved that there are many paths, I corrected. I'm not better than you, V. I just chose differently. She hugged me then, really hugged me. Can we start over? Can you forgive me? I held her carefully. We can work on it, but it'll take time. And it'll require you actually seeing me, not just the version you want to see. I will, I promise. I wasn't sure if I believed her, but I appreciated the effort. My parents didn't approach me at all. I left the reception alone, drove back to Hartford, and went straight to the original Marcello's. It was late, but a few staff were still closing. They cheered when I walked in, having heard about the wedding reveal through our group chat. We opened a bottle of wine and toasted to truth and vindication and building things that matter. That night, Maya texted me. Boss, the phones are ringing off the hook. 6 different media requests for interviews, 2 potential investor meetings, and approximately 1 million reservation requests. Also, your father called the office. I told him you'd get back to him. I smiled and turned off my phone. The next morning, Sunday, I woke up to 47 missed calls. Most were from my mother, several from my father, a few from Vanessa, one from Bradley's father about a business opportunity. I called Maya first. Let's do the media. Interviews. Professional only, focused on the business and our growth strategy. No family drama. You're taking the high road? I already said what needed to be said. Now I'm just running my company. Over the next week, 3 local papers ran features on Marcello Restaurant Group and my story. The angle was always professional. Local CEO who started as Waitress now runs 15 Nalinero's empire. The Hartford Business Journal did a cover story. A regional startup podcast wanted an interview. My family called constantly. I didn't answer. 2 weeks after the wedding, my father showed up at my office unannounced. Maya tried to stop him, but I heard the commotion and came out. He looked older somehow, smaller. Grace? He said. Please, can we talk? I led him into my office. It was beautiful. Floor-to-ceiling windows, modern furniture, walls covered with photos of our restaurants and teams, evidence of everything I'd built. He sat down heavily, looking around. I had no idea. You never asked. I judged you. I dismissed you. I was... He struggled with the words. I was wrong. Yes, you were. Your mother is devastated. She's been crying for days. Vanessa's been trying to explain things to us, what we missed. And I've been sitting with what I said at that rehearsal dinner, what I've been saying for years. His voice cracked. Grace, I'm so ashamed. I waited. I built my career on being right, on knowing things, on having standards. And I used those standards to make you feel worthless. I made you invisible because you didn't fit my narrow definition of success. Tears ran down his face. The first time I'd seen my father cry since his own father's funeral. You did something extraordinary. And instead of celebrating you, I mocked you. You did. Can you forgive me? I looked at this man, my father, powerful and accomplished and completely humbled, and felt something complicated. Not quite forgiveness, not quite vindication, something like grief for what we could have had. I don't know yet, I said honestly. You didn't just dismiss my work, Dad. You dismissed me for 8 years. You made me feel like I didn't matter because I didn't do things your way. That's not something that fixes with one apology. I know, but I want to try. Please. Then actually try. Learn about my business. Ask me questions. See me as I am, not as you wanted me to be. And understand that respect isn't conditional on approval. He nodded, wiping his eyes. I'd like that. I'd like to know who my daughter really is. It was a start. My mother came next, then Vanessa again. Slowly, awkwardly, we began rebuilding something. Not what we'd had before. That was too broken, too unequal. But something new. Something that required them to actually see me. My father started coming to the original Marcello's for dinner, sitting in my section when I waitressed my weekly shift. He watched me work with new eyes, seeing the skill and leadership and care I brought to every interaction. He started understanding that the work itself was never the problem. His judgment of it was. My mother joined one of our quarterly charity events where we donated meals to local shelters. She saw our staff, our systems, our impact. She started introducing me to her friends as my daughter the CEO with genuine pride. Vanessa and I had coffee regularly. She asked real questions. She started understanding the difference between appearing successful and building something meaningful. They were learning. We all were. 6 months later, Marcello Restaurant Group opened our 15th location. We hosted a grand opening event. My entire family came. My father gave a toast. A real one, about being humbled by his daughter's vision, about learning that success has many faces, about being grateful for the chance to witness excellence he'd almost missed. My mother cried happy tears this time. As I looked around at our packed restaurant, at our incredible staff, at the community we'd built, at my family finally seeing me clearly, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. complete, not because they finally approved, but because I'd built something so undeniable that their approval became irrelevant. I'd done it my way, on my terms, with my values, and in doing so, I'd given them the opportunity to grow too. That night, after everyone left, I stood in the empty restaurant and thought about the girl who'd started as a hostess 8 years ago, the girl who'd been told she was wasting her potential, the girl who'd been invisible to her own family. She'd been right all along. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destruction. It's building something so beautiful, so successful, so undeniably real that everyone who dismissed you has to reckon with their own blindness. It's succeeding so completely on your own terms that their validation becomes optional. It's standing in your truth so firmly that they have no choice but to see you. I learned that worth isn't given. It's built, brick by brick, shift by shift, choice by choice. I learned that the people who underestimate you tell you more about their limitations than yours. And I learned that the best response to being made invisible is to become so bright they can't look away. My name is Grace Parker. I'm a waitress, a CEO, a builder of empires and bridges. And I am finally, completely unapologetically seen. Because the greatest power isn't in forcing people to recognize you. It's in building something so magnificent that recognition becomes inevitable. Retry.